This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Joining us today is Jason Brewer, the CEO of Marula Mining, following news from both the Kinusi copper project and Blesberg lithium. Well, let's start with today's news then, Jason, from Blesberg. This is, of course, in regard to the XRF sorters, where you are completing the acquisition of 2 sorters to be installed and operational in Q4. And this is to process the stockpiles, I guess, in the first instance, and then they will also be used when you get into the open pit mining. Is that right?
That's correct. So this morning's announcement was very much about 2 sorters. So both the Rados one and a Tomra one, which will really allow us to again, expand that production of a very high grade spodumene product out of the Blesberg operations there.
I wonder if I can ask you a little bit more on the 2 sorters. And you've got the Rados, as you say, and the Tomra sorter, but they both can process quite different amounts of ore, can't they? One is 30 tons per hour and one is 120 tons per hour. Is there any sort of rationale between these 2 sorters, or is it more just what you can get your hands on at the moment?
Oh, look, we're very keen to expand production there very quickly. And some of the lead times for this sort of equipment, particularly the Tomra plant, is over 12 months. So we've certainly looked at what is available. There's no question about that. The Tomra plant is actually in South Africa, and we've got Tomra who are going to be refurbishing that over the coming weeks. The Rados plant is actually being built from scratch in South Africa as well. So 2 different throughputs, and you're having them in series. So the larger Tomra plant is doing the initial sorting, and then you're putting it through the Rados plant there as well. So you're working out how best to optimize the processing rates of this spodumene as it goes through. So there's been a fair bit of work, test work in Germany, test work in South Africa, and this is call it the flow sheet that we've decided to put in place over the coming 3 to 4 months.
Okay. Well, I wonder if you'll be able to share that flow sheet at some point. It's always nice to see in visual terms how the plant is going to be actually constructed. But you're saying there that initially the Tomra will take most of the sorting, and then the Rados to perhaps refine or get the grade a bit higher.
Absolutely. And then actually before that, and it's not covered in this announcement, but will be in subsequent announcements. To date, as our investors would have seen, we've had mobile crushing and screening plant up at Blesberg. We've now got it's going to be static plants, actually fixed infrastructure. So new crushing, new screens will be going in as well, which will then feed these 2 XRF sorters. So it's a major investment by us. As you've seen, today's announcement refers to $2.2 million of investment just this processing equipment. Since April, since we started bringing in additional mobile mining equipment, excavators, ADTs, dozers, etc., this takes that investment up to over $4 million in plants and equipment. So quite a significant one. You add in the new crushers and screens, you're up at 4.5. You add in, and Mark, you'll remember this, we've committed to a 38-hole diamond drill program and mining works program. That was another 1.35. So you're up at over close to $6 million, which we've committed to this project over the past, 4 or 5 months. So it's becoming a very significant asset for us. And these XRF ore sorters, the Tomra and the Rados one, will really allow us now to get into position to produce in excess of 1,000 tons per month of saleable product, which will then start generating some quite significant revenue streams for us.
So that's what you're going for. You're still targeting that 1,000 tons per month there. I know the RNS mentioned 40 to 50 tons per day.
Yeah. Oh, look, the conservative base numbers that we're using is always that 1,000. Just call it simpletons if you like. It makes for round numbers, but clearly our targets are well above that. This is, call it our base case levels, which generate some reasonable cash flows for us. There's no question about that. But obviously, when you start looking at those throughput rates, the sort of yields that we're going to be getting in terms of the recovery just out of the stockpiles, then yes, you're going to be able to produce in excess of that 1,000 tons per month. No question about that. But, we're comfortable quoting publicly, as we have in these announcements, that 1,000 ton per month target.
Okay. And this is all paid for by your partnership with Q Global.
Well, look, we're going to be paying for it. There's no doubt about that. But the benefit we have with Q Global is they're willing to kind of pre-fund it for us whilst we get the approvals for their funding in place. And particularly, as you've seen on one of the XRF's ore sorters here, the Tomra one, we're paying for that through 36, sorry, not the Tomra, the Rados one. We're paying through that on a lease-to-own arrangement with 36 monthly payments. They've paid for that up front. They've actually paid the initial deposit there, the 14 million rand out of 23 million rand. So almost over 70% deposit put on that. So as a junior company, we wouldn't be able to move as quickly as we can without that massive support which we have with Q Global Commodities behind us.
Okay. And in terms of getting these XRF sorters installed and optimized, will you be working with representatives from those companies to actually help that process go smoothly?
Yes, look, our COO, Tokus van Heerden, just last week was with the head of Tomra in South Africa. So they'll be going through the refurbishment of that plant now. And obviously we're looking to accelerate that to get it on site as quickly as we can. There's a number of capacitors. There's a number of small upgrades which are required on that, nothing significant. So we've got Tomra doing not just the upgrades and the refurbishment, but actually the installation there as well. Okay. Rados, they've got representatives there in South Africa, which is where this plant is actually being built now. And they will, again, do the installation and commissioning of this plant. So, we're very fortunate with having those capabilities there in South Africa to assist us in getting this equipment in place.
Okay. You mentioned earlier about, and of course we spoke about it last time, the commencement of the exploration that you got two phases. Phase one was already underway, going to enable you to get that JORC resource. It already started, but how's it been going? We've nearly been 2 weeks into, I think, the program here. How's it all going?
It's going very well. Look, I think it's now 6-7 holes of that initial 20-hole program completed. So from a drilling perspective, I think they're ahead of schedule. So okay. the daily drilling rates that we had anticipated was about 28 meters a day. I think just the other day they got 37. So they've been slowly picking up and seem to be doing very well. Trenching work, I understand, is completed. A lot of that other work is all ongoing in parallel. So I'm very impressed with how Jack Pearl, who's our project manager of that program, is progressing it with Henk van Zyl, who's the operations manager there in South Africa. So everything seems to be going quite well there at Blesberg, and we're looking forward to the results of that program. And clearly now with the investment in the processing capacity at Blesberg, we're looking forward at getting increased sales out of that operation too.
Okay. Well, let's move on and talk about another announcement that came out at the end of last week. That is, of course, on the Kinusi copper project there, and the processing plant has been completed and ready for transportation. And before we talk about that, last time I recall when we spoke about Kinusi, we talked about this copper mineralized corridor with visual grades of up to 30%, and assays should be out within a couple of weeks to confirm in a bit more concrete what you might have there. How are those assays coming on, Jason?
Look, until we get them, they're just still going on. So they're with SGS. We're expecting them over the course of this week. It's a short week, as you know, because of the bank holiday. So we've got even less days to cram in all these announcements. But yes, we're due to get that out of SGS. And that'll just help us really do some more optimization work on the plant, this initial stage modular plant, which we're looking to get up there over the coming weeks and months.
Well, can you explain a bit more about this modular processing plant, this small scale mining that was mentioned in the RNS? Are you looking here to process stockpiles that are already there, or easy to access ore? What's the idea?
No, the benefit of the Kinusi plant, the Kinusi copper mine, is you've already got 10 granted mining licenses. And this exploration target, which Geofields, our independent geological consultants, came up with, that mineralized corridor that you refer to that was identified over 1 kilometer long and 300 meters wide, and they assigned an initial exploration target of 10 to 15 million tons of high-grade copper, precious metals, and other base metals. That's located on 8 of the contiguous licenses there. So that's where we'll be focusing. There's already small, I'll call it previous artisanal pits there, where we've also been conducting our mining activities. So it's going to be fed from basically ore, which is mined from those mining licenses, and then taken and fed through to this plant. Clearly, this plant, it's there to prove our capability of operating, not just mining, but processing, and then exporting a saleable copper product. And this plant, I believe, is just the start of what we really have planned up there for Kinusi.
So in parallel with the exploration that's going on, you're looking effectively to start small-scale operations here, mining and processing operations.
Absolutely. It's almost a similar, call it model strategy, as what we've done at Blesberg. At Blesberg, you had the stockpiles. Here at Kinusi, you've actually got that visual mineralization, that bright blue, that bright green copper mineralization at surface, at very shallow depths, extensively distributed across that 1 kilometer corridor, which allows you to get in there very quickly and actually start processing.
With almost like an excavator.
Yeah, we'll have excavators up there. We'll be looking at a drill and blast model as well.
Okay.
Again, because the veins that you've got there are quite steeply dipping. So that's going to be a challenge from a mining perspective, working out what is the best way of doing that. But, we've already identified over 30 outcrops, small pits of this copper mineralization. So we really do now have the opportunity to get in there. And as we did at Blesberg, just get started, demonstrate our ability to operate, invest, have this plant there that's going to give us such a better understanding of exactly what we've got. You've got a 20 ton per hour crushing circuit up front, and then you've got the milling circuit of 5 tons per hour. So you're already overbuilding here for the future, and the ability to bring in additional mills, gravity circuits, and so on, to allow us to up the production rates, which we're planning already.
Okay. And you're looking initially, I think, to start processing production, targeting concentrate of 20% copper, and then also a low-grade concentrate of about 10% copper as well, starting small at about 5 tons per hour and moving to 20 tons per hour. Do you have any timelines and targets in mind for these sort of milestones?
Look, the plant, as we've said in the announcement just last week, has already been completed down there in South Africa. So it's now a case of arranging for its transportation up to Tanzania, up to Kinusi, which is in the Dodoma region, for its installation and commissioning. We're expecting that to be completed in the final quarter of this year, and to have material going through it in that period. There's already material which is stockpiled, so you can actually start putting previously mined material through that plant. So yes, we will have a second operation generating revenues from Marula by the end of this year. Okay. So a very important step for us.
Well, just to get a little bit more clarity on the two-phase processing operation, why would you look to produce 2 different concentrates, like splitting off 20% and 10%?
Look, the 20% con is able to attract a very high price in the market. So you're getting, for that 20 to 25% copper, you're getting a plus 62% of LME copper price payable. So that's quite a significant pricing there. The reason we're taking the 10%, that low-grade con, off is there is demand for low-grade con, primarily from Chinese smelters and so on. That is a potential revenue stream. But more importantly for us, there's an opportunity to almost stockpile that lower-grade con, with a view that as we move forward with the operations at Kinusi, and we're starting to consider copper leaching circuits, that's when we can kind of use that as an immediate feed into that circuit, and obviously take that up from a 10% to a much higher grade product that then is able to attract a very high pricing premium. This plant, the design allows us to really start formulating volumes, deliveries that we're likely to make to the offtake parties over the fourth quarter of this year and going forward in 2024 as well.
Okay. And how are those negotiations going with offtake parties? Can you divulge any information?
Yeah, they're going well. Look, copper is such a great commodity at the moment. I think every every second article I'm reading about is about the critical status of that sector. Without enough new mines coming on, without volume, such a tremendous shortage of supply, massive demand because of electric vehicles and so on. So we're in a very good position in terms of negotiating this. What we're looking at doing, there's some very significant offtake groups out of Europe that are clearly looking at our lithium production out of South Africa. So if we're able to do a offtake with the same party, then that clearly puts us in a very strong position. So that's clearly one of the parties we're talking to, and we're expecting that prior to that first production coming through, that we will have that agreement in place. And certainly I'm pushing to get it done sooner rather than later. I'm in South Africa in probably end of this week and early next week. And again, that's part of the reasoning for me being there to progress some of these discussions and negotiations.
Okay. And I believe there's also exploration work going on, isn't there, at Kinusi? You're in phase 2 exploration, is that right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a planning phase at the moment. We're waiting for those assays to come through. We had QGC's head of mining and head of geology up on site a couple of weeks back, along with our director, our chairman, Richard Lloyd, who's a very experienced geologist. So part of that was to look at that next phase of work, which is going to be a lot of drilling. That is a very big system there. It's already extending along a whole kilometre of strike, which is open. We need to get in there and drill that. The appearance and what you've got a number of sulfides, which you're seeing, that demonstrates the potential for there to be something quite significant at depth. So we clearly need to drill at depth and see exactly what's there. The comments made by Geofields about other base metals and about precious metals, that's very interesting for us. In and around Kinusi, there's artisanal mining for the gold. So there is clearly a lot of gold in that area. So we've got to get a better understanding of the metallurgy of some of this mineralization, and that will allow us to then take this plant forward to the next phase, the expanded phase. And that can only come about from the actual mining processing, but also with the parallel exploration that's ongoing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Jason Brewer, the CEO of Marula Mining.
Mark, not a problem, and thanks once again.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.